Jaime Lannister rides into Winterfell, ready to fight the dead, ready to honor his pledge, and then he sees Bran, sitting in his wheelchair, still, waiting, watching, with those cold, knowing eyes that have seen everything, past, present, and future. No accusation, no threat, no anger, just silence. When I first got to this scene in the Season 8 premiere, I almost scrolled past it. 2 characters, no dialogue, barely 30 seconds. On paper it sounds like nothing, but I've rewatched it more times than I can count. And that silence is more devastating than anything either of them could have said. Here's exactly why. The arrival. Returning to the scene of the crime. The courtyard is busy. Northerners, moving, preparing, talking. Organized chaos on the eve of war. And then Jaime sees him. One glance across the courtyard, and everything else disappears. The camera knows exactly what it's doing here. It narrows. The background noise fades. 2 people in a crowded yard, and suddenly they are the only 2 people in the world. The boy he pushed from a tower 8 years ago. The crime that started everything. The sin he has carried across every single episode of his redemption arc, and never once had to look in the face. Until now. The boy is not a boy anymore. And the man who pushed has spent 8 seasons being taken apart and slowly, painfully rebuilt. They meet again here at the end of the world in Winterfell, where it all began. The stare. What Bran's silence actually says. He knew Jaime was coming. Of course he did. He is the three-eyed raven. He sees everything, across all time. He has been sitting here, in this exact spot, waiting. And when Jaime appears, Bran does not look surprised, does not call for guards, does not flinch, does not even change his expression. He just stares. And this is the part that genuinely got me the first time I really paid attention to it. Because Bran's silence isn't emptiness. It's full. It contains a complete conversation that he has chosen not to have out loud. That stare says, I know what you did. I remember falling. I remember your face at the window as you let go. I know why you did it. I've seen you as Cersei, seen what you were protecting, understood the panic that made you push a child from a tower without hesitation. I've watched every step of everything you've done since that moment. Every act of cruelty, every act of unexpected courage, every small decision that bent you towards something better. And I'm watching you now, still, to see which version of you actually showed up in Winterfell. All of that, in a single unbroken stare. No words needed. The freeze. Jaime Lannister, paralyzed. Watch his face. The moment recognition lands, he stops completely. This is the Kingslayer. One of the greatest swordsmen who ever lived. A man who has faced death so many times, it stopped meaning anything. And he is standing in an open courtyard, paralyzed, not by physical threat, but by something he has no defense against. Guilt, when it's standing right in front of you with living eyes. For 8 seasons, he has carried the knowledge of what he did, assumed at first that Bran died, then learned he survived, crippled, carried that. It has been part of what drives the arc, the innocent child destroyed for selfish reasons, an abstract guilt with no face. Now, the guilt has a face, and it is looking directly at him. If Bran shouted, if guards came running, if there was action, Jaime could respond. He is built for action, combat, defense, explanation, deflection. He is good at all of it, but Bran just sits there, waiting, watching, silent. That silence strips Jaime of every defense he has. There is nothing to fight. Nothing to argue, just the weight of what he did, held in the gaze of the person he did it to. Why silence? What words would have destroyed this scene could have had dialogue. Lesser writing would have given it dialogue. Imagine it. Bran says, hello, Jaime. Jaime says, I'm sorry for what I did. Bran says, scene over. Clean, explicit, resolved, and completely hollow. Words would have made this transactional. 8 seasons of character development reduced to a quick exchange so the plot can move forward. The silence refuses to do that. It refuses to let either character or the audience off the hook that easily. Silence forces Jaime to sit with his guilt in real time. There is no apology to deliver, no explanation to offer, no sentence to complete that ends the moment. He just has to stand there and bear it. And so does the audience. It also communicates something about Bran that words never could. The old Bran, the climbing, curious, laughing boy from season 1, would have had things to say. Fury, pain, questions. But the three-eyed raven is beyond all of that. He is beyond vengeance, beyond the need for spoken confrontation. His silence is not the silence of someone who has nothing to say. It is the silence of someone for whom words are no longer the right tool. Speaking would make him human. Silence makes him something else entirely. I've watched this exchange probably 6 or 7 times now, and I still can't decide if Bran's silence is a form of mercy or something colder. Whether he is letting Jaime off the hook or just not bothering to lower himself to the level of confrontation. That ambiguity is exactly what makes it work. The weight of 8 seasons in one look. Season 1, Episode 1. Jaime pushes Bran from the tower to protect his secret with Cersei. That single act sets the entire series in motion. Bran's paralysis, Catelyn's investigation, the capture of Tyrion, the war between Starks and Lannisters, Ned's execution, the War of the Five Kings. One push, thousands dead, the realm torn apart. Season 8. Episode 1. They are face to face again, but everything has changed. The push that was meant to kill Bran sent him north instead, toward the cave, toward the three-eyed raven, toward becoming the living memory of mankind. The hand that did the pushing was taken from Jaime. The arrogance behind it was stripped away, piece by piece, over years of suffering and loss and slow, painful growth. The silence holds all of that history, without needing to explain a single word of it. Both men know. The audience knows. It exists in the air between them. Every episode, every consequence, every transformation, without anyone having to narrate it. That is what great visual storytelling actually looks like. It trusts the audience to have been paying attention. It does not condescend. It does not explain. It just lets two people look at each other and lets 8 years of story do the rest. The judgment without a verdict. What makes Bran's silence genuinely terrifying is that it is judgment without resolution. He doesn't condemn. He doesn't forgive. He simply watches and evaluates, the way you would watch a piece on a board that you haven't decided how to use yet. Because the three-eyed raven sees the larger picture. He knows what's coming. He knows they need every sword. He knows Jaime's entire journey, every step of the redemption arc, has led to this exact moment. A man who once cared for nothing outside himself, now willing to ride north alone to die fighting for people he has no obligation to. So Bran doesn't expose him to Jon and Daenerys, doesn't tell Sansa, doesn't demand justice. He lets Jaime stand there in the uncertainty, not knowing if he is about to be arrested, not knowing if Bran will speak or stay silent, not knowing if what he has become is enough to outweigh what he was. That uncertainty is its own punishment. And it is only possible through silence. Now, some people will disagree with me here. And honestly, I get it. There's a real argument that the silence is a cheat. That after 8 seasons of build-up, after Bran losing the use of his legs, losing his home, losing his identity, losing what remained of his childhood in that cave beyond the wall, he deserved more than a stare. That the show was so rushed by season 8, that it substituted a visual shortcut for the actual confrontation these characters earned. That is a fair argument. Season 8's pacing problems are real, and there are places where the show leans on meaningful silence to avoid doing the harder work of actually writing the scene. But here's why I still think this specific moment works. The silence is not avoiding the confrontation. It is the confrontation, just one that happens entirely in the interior of both characters, visible on their faces, rather than in spoken exchange. And that choice is consistent with exactly who Bran has become. The three-eyed raven does not do emotional reckoning the way humans do. He is not suppressing the confrontation. He genuinely does not need it. The scene earns its silence because the character earns it. That's the difference. What this scene is really about. At its core, this is a scene about whether transformation is real. Jaime has spent years becoming someone different. Lost the hand that pushed Bran. Lost the arrogance that made the push possible. Lost Cersei, the person he committed every crime for. He rode north alone, knowing he might be executed on arrival. because something in him had changed enough to believe the fight against the dead mattered more than his own survival. But transformation means nothing until it is tested by the thing you are trying to transform from. And there is Bran, the origin point of everything. The living evidence of the worst version of Jaime Lannister, sitting there with eyes that see all of it. Every version of him, every moment, every choice. Jaime cannot explain his transformation to Bran, cannot argue it or justify it. Bran already knows more about Jaime's journey than Jaime does. All he can do is stand there and be seen. That is what makes this 30 seconds of silence more powerful than most scenes with pages of dialogue, because it is not about what is said, it is about what cannot be undone, cannot be explained, and cannot be resolved, only acknowledged. Some things are too large for words. Some sins are too old for apology. Some confrontations belong entirely in the space between two people, in the air, in the look, in the silence that says everything the characters cannot bring themselves to speak. This is one of them. Here's what I keep coming back to, though, and I want to know what you think. Is Bran's silence in this scene an act of mercy, a conscious choice to let Jaime's changed self outweigh his past self? Or has he simply moved so far beyond human feeling